So, for today, this is my final, or I should say my unofficial final sketchbook spread in the sketchbook that I was currently and, have been using since the start of my channel. I say unofficial because it's not actually the last page in my sketchbook, but I feel like it is a perfect summation of exactly what I wanted to accomplish in this sketchbook, and it's something that I'm really proud of, and I wanted to end this sketchbook on a positive note. So it is my unofficial surrogate final page. If hearing me chat about what I am really proud of in this sketchbook spread and seeing me draw some bears and experiment with texture sounds like something that you would like to do, I'm Rory Flint, but feel free to call me Rory. And if you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. So if that sounds like something you would like to do, I hope that you end up enjoying this video. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's talk about some texture. And what I mean by that specifically is that I spent this spread trying to achieve one goal, and that goal was for my art traditionally to look very similar, if not identical, to the art that I create on Procreate. And I first start by, as you can see here, cutting up a sponge, and honestly I shouldn't even say I first start by because this works amazing and I don't really try anything else because my kind of next goal was to get some soft pastels, which I do have and I'm very excited to introduce in a video very soon. But regarding what I'm doing in this video, I am using a sponge. It's just like a normal dish sponge or whatever. I went downstairs and asked my mom for one, and I'm cutting it up into different sizes to see the different kinds of textures that I can achieve with a single sponge. I spent a lot of time before this spread studying the art that I create in Procreate and trying to figure out what it was that I liked so much about it, and I've kind of reiterated over and over again that my texture in Procreate is something that I just really can't achieve traditionally, and so I was just kind of determined to find a way to try without the soft pastels, which I'm definitely banking on helping quite a lot because my favorite brush set in Procreate is, oh my god, say that like 3 times fast, brush set is a soft pastel brush set, and I love it. I feel like it's just this lovely balance between texture and opacity, and I just, the brushes, they just kind of glide on my iPad, and I love the look that I can achieve with them, and so I'm hoping soft pastels in real life do the same thing. Now, I have worked with them before. I've taken a few art classes through high school, and then in my degree, while it was design, I did have many things that I learned to incorporate into my style, not only in design principles, but also illustratively. Man, I'm just picking all the strange, phrases and words to say. Illustratively, I think is what I was trying to say. While I didn't use soft pastels in my degree, in my high school classes, I 100% experimented with oil pastels, soft pastels, acrylic paint, watercolors, which I originally thought I hated, which I think is hysterical now because it's all I use. Though I do have an idea for a project with acrylic paints that I'm hoping to be able to get the nerve to do and to get my art style in a place where I feel confident in creating, spending a lot of time on a specific piece. Acrylic is so much different, or I should say spending time on a piece where it's in a canvas board feels so much more official, and it's not about experimenting and growing, it's about creating something that you find to be complete in your own style, and that is different. A sketchbook in that way feels a lot more freeing and a lot less daunting. I really want to, before I try anything like that, to find my style in this kind of evolution that I've been going through. And what I do think I accomplish here is definitely the beginning of that. I love the little bear. I know right now everything just looks like a messy blob, but the little bear underneath the fish is my favorite thing on the planet. I actually end up loving him so much that I make him my little icon on YouTube, which is what you guys can kind of see right now, actually. As of this voiceover, I changed it. It's gone through a couple iterations, which I guess I do think I filmed myself kind of changing my logo and changing my banners, so I'll probably leave that for a conversation in that video. So to go back to what I was talking about in regards to this sketchbook spread, I'm just really, really happy with the fact that I figured out a way to experiment with texture, because that's all I've been going on and on and on about. And using that sponge in like a stippling technique where I'm just kind of like firmly pressing the sponge and then lightly pressing the sponge into the page to see what would happen. And I'm using gouache, by the way, gouache on the sponge, because I needed something or wanted the effect of something that was a bit more opaque, and watercolor just wasn't going to do that for me. And I did like a bunch of layers, especially on this bear in the top right corner that you see that's kind of like going after a fish. And I guess I kind of overworked him a little bit, but I'm still really happy with it, honestly, because it was all in the name of experimentation, which made this sketchbook spread just like so much fun compared to just I don't know, what felt like I was just bashing my head into a wall with so many of these spreads, as of late anyways. It was really reinvigorating to be sketching and doodling and loving my sketches and then painting them and loving them even more, because I have definitely felt like I've been taking sketches that I really like and care about and not, I don't know, adding color and revitalizing them with color in a way that I found satisfying, and they never really ended up looking the way that I wanted them to. In this spread specifically, I'm focusing on a lot of things, the texture, as I've mentioned, and then lighting, and I'm thinking about like the ways that the shadows actually might interact with what I'm doodling. Not like a whole bunch. I'm not saying I'm making the most realistic set of doodles or anything like that, but I am really just focusing on being really conscientious of the brush strokes that I'm making, and I'm just thinking about layering just like I do in Procreate. I was visualizing the layers in my head, and what was so nice about the gouache is that anything I didn't like, I could just paste over, and I could sponge over and add a new texture, and it really like freed me and gave me the ability to layer and layer and layer and create doodles and sketches that I just found to be a lot more engaging and a lot more visually interesting to look at, which has literally just been my goal this entire sketchbook. So that's also, a main reason why I chose to make this video kind of like the closing video for the sketchbook, because it's like, okay, this is it. This is where I accomplished what I set out to do. Would I have liked to have created a few more spreads with this accomplishment? Yes. Did I? No. I didn't quite, in the last couple spreads, capture the magic of this one here, and I'm not totally sure what happened. I was just not feeling the sketchbook anymore, I think, if I had to guess. It happens to the best of us. You get to the end of a sketchbook, and sometimes you're kind of thinking about the pages and the doodles that you've done, and maybe if it's not turning out the way that you wanted it to, you feel really discouraged, or at least I sometimes feel really discouraged by that, and then I don't want to work on the sketchbook anymore. But it's okay, you have to push through, which is why I just, it feels like I kept throwing shit at a wall and seeing what would stick with the, capybaras, and the, squids, and all the other kind of handful of spreads that I completed before the end of this sketchbook. And both of those specifically were after this one, and I couldn't capture what I wanted to in them. So I'm gonna give them, both capybaras and little octopi squid dudes, another go, hopefully, in this next sketchbook. But one of the things I want to do in my new sketchbook is go back to doodles that I love and make me laugh, and figure out how to take the essence of that and apply it to new subjects. And I also want to take subjects that I'm used to painting and, finding a way to revitalize them, whether it's drawing things in groups, which isn't something that I necessarily do, or drawing, bears interacting with things. I've done a lot of bear doodles in this sketchbook, and I want to kind of have that come to fruition in a way by, taking everything that I've learned about their anatomy and the way that I want to draw them and putting it into a piece, or at least sort of like a more finalized doodle. And I kind of want to take these bears and put them in a situation and just draw these subjects that I'm used to drawing in a more engaging and interesting way. One of the things that I used to paint a lot in an old sketchbook, not this one, but I'm not even sure the one that I finished previous to this one, but in a couple sketchbooks back, I was obsessed with drawing like potted plants. I just thought that they were a lot of fun, and succulents, you know, they're sort of like round bulbous shapes are just really interesting to me, and I have a lot of fun like drawing and painting pots. So I wanted to go ahead and like throw one of those in here, along with a few tree studies, because I feel like that's something that I always end up loving doing. And, you know, with the way that this spread was going so far, I was really like, okay, let's paint some trees. I love painting them in Procreate. I love painting them traditionally. And with this sort of new texture-y thing that I've got going on, maybe I can paint them traditionally again in a way that I'm really proud of and I really like. There's just something so much fun about, or I should say there's something that is so much fun about these tree branches just sort of curling and creating these large organic shapes with the trunks of the trees. I always have a lot of fun doing it. It just genuinely felt like I had a vision for this spread, and I completed that vision, and that was really satisfying for me. I suppose I could mention that one of the things that I thought would be the easiest to start with when using the sponge for the texture was water, which is why I ended up going back to this doodle that I've sort of drawn previously, where a bear is kind of like going after a fish, because I wanted to see, I don't know, I guess I felt like in my mind I understood how to do this stippling, spongy texture with water, and then from there maybe I could find a way to integrate it into bushes and tree leaves and things like that. And so in my head I could really easily visualize how I could incorporate this texture into bushes and trees and water, and I was hoping that through kind of understanding how to do that, I would then be able to properly integrate this new texture into other subjects. And basically just be able to take what I've learned and apply it to all of the other things that I want to paint and draw. On this second page of the spread, I'm drawing more trees. I really wanted to draw this tree with like floating fish around it, you know, not the most like original concept. A lot of people like to draw fish out of water, but I was having a lot of fun just painting these little noodly blobs, and you know, in my head, they're fish kind of just swimming around this tree. I was really enjoying the orange and green color combination, and I wanted to continue to play with that a little bit here. You're also going to see me draw a big sort of like slithery catfish because my catfish spread is still one of my favorites that I've done in this sketchbook, even though it was, oh god, spreads and spreads and spreads ago. And honestly, it's one of my like first videos, and not like, I feel like a lot of YouTubers or people who create content say this, you know, it's not necessarily my best work. I definitely started hitting my stride, I don't know, like 10 videos in, 15 videos in, I kind of got better at my thumbnails, which are still something that I'm trying to tackle, and I got better at chatting with you guys and feeling more confident and being able to just keep the voiceover going, and I also started coming up with like themes and subjects that I wanted to talk about and address in a video, so I wasn't just like rambling the whole time, where in the first like 10, 15 videos or so, I was definitely a little bit more loose and not necessarily in a way that made those videos better. But with all of that being said, I drew a catfish because I loved that spread and I really wanted to paint one again. And I drew like a fish with its head cut off and its tail kind of flapping. And you'll end up seeing another bear kind of looking up at the sky with some bushes on him and a couple more fish. I go about this page the same as the other one, where I'm laying down a lot of flat colors in watercolor, letting that dry, and really trying to just let every single layer that I do dry so that you can clearly see the individual layers when I want you to. When I go in with the sponge with gouache, I do kind of like mix some of the colors together and kind of use like a wet on wet technique where I'm like sponging on a color and then I'm not letting it dry and I'm sponging another one down. But when it comes to the watercolor, I wanted them to dry, and there are times where I sponge in the gouache and I do want each of those textures and each of those colors to be separate from each other. So I let, you know, if I pad down a warm green, then I'll let that dry before I pad down a cooler toned green with the sponge. But if I want them to blend together, I might not let those dry. I also really wanted to draw the catfish because I was like, how can I add this sponge texture to the catfish? You know, what might I enjoy and what might this sketch, I guess, gain in using the sponge and that new texture? I was really focusing on lighting, kind of, with the first tree that I'm painting on this page. I was really trying to be like, okay, how do I want to draw, or I should say paint and insinuate that, there are parts of the tree that are, or parts of the leaves, rather, that are on top of other ones, and so there's this light and dark contrast where parts of the leaves are above other ones, creating shadows, and then also, like, do I want to create a more, like, graphic, more contrasty, white, what is it called? A white highlight? I was kind of trying to address how I want to go about the lighting with my trees in this first tree with the fish swimming around it. And I even go in and just paint with like a small brush with gouache because I just felt like I really needed that opacity. I kind of wish I left the tree just like it is right now because I love the contrast that's happening with the really dark, maybe I do leave it for the most part. I don't know. I don't think I do, but I kind of wish I did. I like this. But anyways, I'm liking the contrast here. I hope that whatever I do doesn't ruin that because I don't totally remember what this tree looks like. I definitely think one of the things I'm going to be continuing to work on is pushing and pulling how much watercolor versus gouache that I end up using, because like right now, as I was mentioning, I really like the tree where part of it is kind of gouache and set in shadow in the back, and then part of it is watercolor and it looks a lot lighter and it makes sense graphically and visually. But I don't necessarily have that kind of push and pull down yet, especially because I'm positive I go over this tree with more gouache, where personally I think I should have left it as it is right now when it comes to the leaves and the how I use the watercolor versus the gouache. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be further exploring. I was making sure to be very intentional and conscientious of my line work because as I'm focusing on more lights and darks, I'm also kind of mapping out a bit more clearly where I want my lines to go, where with watercolor and like colored pencil and even just using that with Copic markers, I wasn't always super clear going into a finalized piece how I was going to ink it, but having the gouache and having more, a more harsh edge to my paint makes it a lot more clear to me how I need to complete my line work. Kind of like an added bonus to this new process. But then also in a way, maybe not, because when I'm like sponging on the texture, it kind of covers up the line and makes a lot of the harsher edges very blurry and difficult to tell what I need to do. The last little bit of this video is completing this little noodly catfish, and then the catfish with its head cut off, and this adorable little bear sitting down and staring at the sky with this like tiny tree growing on his back. Or I suppose that these are the same subjects, but just other doodles and in different ways, and I guess seeing what the result is. I was just doing my best, as with the whole spread, to continue the process, starting with watercolor, sponging on even a little bit of watercolor, and then trying to see how to incorporate these textures into other subjects. And with that, this is my final spread in my sketchbook. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I was really excited to show off this new technique and this new style that I'm trying to figure out, because this spread just really made me feel good about where I'm at with my art and where I'm at with my skill level, and it really showed me that I am capable and I can do this. I've just been struggling, and a lot of people and a lot of artists go through so many different ups and downs. I've heard it over and over again from so many different YouTubers, and I am no exception, that's for sure, because I've really been struggling, and I'm really hoping that I can take the energy of this spread and just shove it into this sketchbook that I'm starting, and I'm hoping that I can create more spreads that I like than dislike and kind of close that disparity between the two, because I really, really want to create a sketchbook that in its entirety I am very happy with. So if you're one of those subscribers, hello, and if you're not, maybe think about subscribing. You can do the YouTube-y things like comment and subscribe, and if you don't know what to comment, I watched this guy named Robert Welsh, who always says, if you don't know what to comment, just comment algorithm, because that's what it does. It boosts the algorithm, and I kind of love that. So, to close off this little rambly, If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. You know, there's over 100 of you, 117 as of this voiceover, which is pretty cool. My numbers grow, you know, by 1 or 2 almost every day, and it's always just really, really cool to see. Final statement, I will hopefully talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!